like a virgin, touch for the very first time, like a virgin. Oh shit! Hey, we're back. Not gonna ask how y'all got in here, but get ready for a new episode of 3 Beards of Wrestling. What y'all hear? And the show starts now.
Man, we're just all messing up fucking today. Holy shit.
Yeah, because I was getting ready to say, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I put her phone in there. I don't know what the fuck happened. But, I mean, we'll just jump right into it. So, our guest, Jason Havoc today. So.
Yeah!
How's it going, guys?
What up?
Jason?
So good to see us.
Good to see you.
Yes, good to see you too. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you.
You can barely hear me?
Yeah.
What about now?
I'm good. Yep.
All right, cool. That's the mic. All right.
Can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
You're all good.
All right.
Yes, regardless of what Shane says.
Shut the hell up.
I'm just saying, like, you're supposed to be here for my WrestleMania party last weekend.
Shut up.
Show up.
All right, so let's jump right into it. So we got a full hour with Jason.
Yes.
Workers University. Jason.
Yes.
Let's start out with that.
Right.
Then we'll move into some serious shit. So you want to tell us about Workers University?
Sure. Basically, Workers University was born out of the Mess Brothers dungeon. So more or less, it's a combination of my company, which is Workers University, and Mark Mess Company and Troy Mess Company, which is the Mess the Dungeon in Blandon, Pennsylvania. And we've come together and have an agreement basically to work together to get people the best training we can in the area. So that's kind of what we do. The school is located where the Mess Brothers have always been located, which is in Blandon, PA, inside of basically a storage facility, but it's a large building in there. We have a 2-ring facility, which is pretty rare these days. We run training 4 days a week right now, and we're working together. We operate a lot in terms of psychology and storytelling, but we also obviously try to keep up with all the the physical aspects of what's going on in the business today as well. So we stay current. We make sure we stay true to what we feel wrestling truly is. But beyond that, we're here to entertain. So we're teaching people how to do that, and I think that's something that I've always enjoyed. One of the best parts of the business for me and how I give back, I guess, is trying to give other people the knowledge that I have and try to teach them to do what they want to do with their career. So
I'm one of the best to learn from.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the very technical minded people that I've ever met. It's just,
Yeah, that's one of the things I think is really coming back into style in the wrestling business right now too, is the technical end of things, and the maybe a little bit more of the bringing a little bit more of implied realism back into the product. And so, that's kind of my style. That's definitely how I was trained. And, we are, we kind of stay true to that technical end of things in the training as well. And then, we branch out into, and every aspect, we kind of cover everything. My goal as a trainer is to give you the best foundation that you can get. And that foundation consists of all the patterns, all of the key movements that you need to learn about your body. And we go through a lot of those, drills and exercises simply so that the people that come to the school understand how they need to move themselves, because everybody's a little bit different, and to perform. And so learn those fundamentals, the core aspects of the business, how to represent that well. And then after they leave me, they should go on and continue their career, learn more, do more, spread their knowledge, go wherever they can go. But you need to do that. What people sometimes forget is that you really need a true foundation. You know what I mean? Like, your house is going to fall apart if it's just built on mud. So if you don't get in there and get some excellence where you start, from the footwork to really truly understanding the core value of emotion in the business, because that's really what draws money, is emotion. Understand how to translate these moves that we do, regardless of their, high or low, quote unquote, high spots in the business. No matter how high they are, we still need emotion, and learn how to translate that into what you do. And then, give them what they still want today too, which is sometimes just something really, really fucking cool. So, we gotta hit all those parts and pieces. But the key, I think, that's missing, and sometimes in the business today, from what I see that I can help with, is learning how to work with anybody on any level. If you want to get to a high level, you got to start at the low level, and you're a bunch some people who may not have the same dreams and hopes that you do, nor may they have the same level of commitment to the product that you do. Right. But you need to understand how to make that person look good, because that still sells tickets at the end of the day. That's what a promoter brings you in to do. And if you can do that, you're going to impress the right people, and then you're going to get onto the shows with the opportunity to go balls to the wall and do what you want to do. You got to be able to look good doing anything with anybody. And if you can do that and embrace that about the business, you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about at the end of the day, being able to work with anybody. I always prided myself in that. If I showed up and they gave me the best worker, I was going to work that to the best of my ability. If they gave me the worst wrestler on the show, then I was going to use all of my ability to make both of us look better than we are. It's what you pick and choose, and that's the beauty of pro wrestling. Hopefully somebody who gets into this career has, hundreds of matches, right? So if you're going to have hundreds of matches, you're going to need to mix it up, and you don't always have to have that super indie match. You don't always have to have the slow match. You gotta go everywhere. You know what I mean? Do everything. Tell every story you can. And to do that, you're going to run into people who can only do certain things. That's just what their limitations are. If I can take somebody's limitations and turn it into a great story, or turn it into a great moment, really is what we're talking about, because it's the pop, or it's the boo, it's the whatever that crowd needed to feel in that moment. You're creating moments for people that they can take home, and you need to be able to do that with the best or the worst. to do it with the worst is even harder. So you got to have your foundation. You got to know how to make those little things look good. And, if you skip that part, you may never get to the part where you get to show off all your great shit. You may never get there because you may never be recognized to work in a promotion that has some really great people who want the same things that you want. That's what we got to remember,
Yeah.
So my goal, anyway, to sum all that up, I just talked for like 5 minutes straight. To sum all that up, it's about, we really focus on the foundation in the beginning. So we run an 18-month course, and I know that's kind of rare today. I think everybody today is like, hey, we can teach you in 6 months. We don't take that on, and that's just not how we are here. So when you sign up with the school, we say it's 18 months. And believe it or not, my rule, one of the things that I implemented is that we don't really give you a match for 6 months. And a big part of that is because at one time in the wrestling business, think in the indies, you took every single opportunity that you possibly can, right? Because at that time, opportunities were not as often as they are today. They were also sometimes more valid. Today, the opportunity you may be taking may be actually hurting you in the long run, because you're rushed to the ring, or you're not quite ready. You're going to put somebody else in there that's not quite ready. And now that's kind of what's going to be out there forever, right? How do you how do you get rid of that garbage that you got out there that you rushed to get out there with? Again, we're talking about trying to teach people how to have a 10, 15, 20-year career in pro wrestling. This first 18 months, learn how to do it well, present that to the world. When you guys run out there after a month and you think, I'm going to go have a match, it'll be okay if it's not great. It's all on the internet, so it's exposed. So when you become great in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, when you are killing it and you have the ability to make it to the next level, what do you think that promoter, what do you think that next level people are going to do? They're going to research you. Yeah, man, they're going to pull all that up, and they're going to pull all the garbage with the good stuff. Now I've got to decide how much garbage compared to good stuff is there on the internet. How much of what you showed me is an engineered good situation, and how much of what I see on the internet is actually your new reality. And I don't ever, as a promoter, want to put my students in a situation to prove that they're as good as they are today, because we all start out and we all suck. You know what I mean? We all start out shitty. So one of the things that I've adopted here in the policy is that we try to get you to a certain level, and that your first matches are going to be with people who can lead you through. And we start you off that way and protect you that way, so that, what you do when you leave, that guidance is up to you, right? You always have that option. You can do whatever you want to do. In the 18 months that you're with me, I'm going to try to build up and establish the best reputation I can for you. And I'm going to try to build up and establish your ability to work with as many people as possible. That's my goal in that 18 months, and then take you, really work with what you have to offer in particular for you. If you want to be a high flyer, you want to be a technical guy, you want to be a brawler, whatever it is that you want to do. I don't think anybody wants to be a brawler anymore. I think that's not.
Hey now. I enjoy
that's
that.
That's old. We're old. You're old too.
Yeah.
So, but whatever it is that you want to be, we start to hone in on that in the second half of your training. And then after that, you're going to go out and you're going to hit the wrestling world, so to speak. And I encourage it, with my students. I always want them to leave the nest and go out and experience other things. But in the beginning, we really try to give you the best opportunity to succeed without putting a whole bunch of garbage out on the internet, because it's there forever. And it's what might represent you for longer than you need it to. So overexposure is a problem, guys. Edit your videos, do all that stuff that's going to make you look as good as possible. It's show business. You need to, you know what I mean? It's just an important part of it, and a lot of people overlook that. You can't rush to get everything online.
Have a highlight reel.
Yeah, highlight reel. Yeah. Plus, if I'm a promoter, right? If after every match, if I'm running a show, and after every single match you go online and you post your whole match, what tickets are you selling for me?
That's a good.
I'm not sure that you're selling any. Right, because your aunt and your uncle and your nephews and your this or you're that or whoever it is that's coming to see you knows that you're just going to post it in the week. So do they need to come and spend their $20? No, you're going to post it for them for free. So as promoter, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to go post your match online every time, then and you do that in a pattern, then maybe you're not a draw from me because you're not drawing people to the show. You might be drawing people to on online product.
Yeah.
And that can be a great thing if that's what you're going for. But if you're trying to put asses in seats in a small show, then as a promoter, I don't want you to overexpose what's going on there because our show has to be a draw itself. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a lot of different perspectives on that, but I think that highlight reels giving them a little bit is one thing. Giving them everything. Again, it's overexposure. It takes away the mystique of what's going to actually happen, what you're going to do, what's going on with the business. And, there's a right amount that you need to give them, obviously, to entice people, but too much. And you're doing it for free. You're not being a draw. And that's important. That's really what's going to win over in the end. Doesn't matter how talented you are. If you're not drawing any money, then you're likely not going to be around very long unless you got a buddy who's doing the booking. Right?
That happens a lot.
Yeah, it does.
All right. Yeah.
So, you look like a bobblehead shaking your head like that. I'm just want to let you know.
It's like, what he's saying is like true. I mean, especially like traveling to different shows and shit, like, there's certain people, not certain people, a lot of people that will either like do like Facebook Lives of their match or whatever instead of like, I feel like a lot of workers will be like, oh well, like I'm gonna go live that way you can watch my match on Facebook instead of like actually come to a show.
Yeah,
like,
I mean that's because each individual person today is trying to make that viral moment, or they're trying to get exposed, they're trying to get seen. Everybody is, and I understand that. But there's a benefit to creating a community around a show that you're going to be involved in, right? Yeah. So if you are building a core product in terms of like your home product, or if you're a local guy who's building your home core product, you need some sort of atmosphere of teamwork to draw that all in. It can't all just be, I got to get my moment so that I can get beyond where you're at, right? Sometimes build where you're at into something great, and people are going to notice what you are, and that's going to be a platform then for you to move on and do something better. It doesn't always all happen so instantly, right? Yeah. It doesn't have to sometimes it's going to require hard work. Some people get lucky and it happens in a second because they see this great moment, right? Yeah. But then they got to carry that torch. So what if that's it? If that's the only moment? Well, okay, I'll give up that opportunity for them to be their 15 minutes of fame because I want an hour of fame. I want 2 hours of fame. I want a lifetime of it. You know what I mean? That maybe should be your goal. Some people it is. Some people it's not. It's just what you want. Either way, if you want to be part of a community that, teaches a great art form and presents a great product and have a little pride in it, then you also have to consider that it's not just about that one moment. It's about the whole thing. So if you can draw people to the show because they can't see it anywhere else, that's a benefit. I think as an indie promotion, indie promotion shouldn't be just trying to repeat everything you see on TV. It's a very different product.
Yeah,
it really is. Right. So, if I'm an average fan and I want to go to an indie show and I want an indie show to be a draw, if I do all the stuff that WWE or AEW does, if I try to mimic their product, but I do it at 60% the rate, right? I mean, WWE, AEW, let's just use those two in general. They have the best talent in the world. And on the indies, we have people who may become the best talent in the world, but they're not yet. or people who were the best talent in the world, but they can't do it like that anymore. And then you got a whole bunch of shitbags in the middle, right? I mean, let's be honest. Untrained, you got this, you got that. You got people who maybe they just wanted the hobby, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
But that mix doesn't equal what you get on TV. Period. End of day. End of story.
Yeah.
So if I go out and try to do everything if I try to be an AEW as a small indie promotion, you know what I end up doing? I draw people to AEW, right? Because the one or two fans in the town that you have that love it, they go home to their neighbors and they're like, "Oh man, they did this move. They did a Hurricane Rana off the top rope. Did you see that? Oh, you mean like so and so wrestler A from AEW or WWE does? Yeah." Where did that draw the people?
To them.
What did that draw the neighbor to go watch?
Yeah,
AEW and WWE.
Yeah.
It didn't draw them to my indie show. It drew them there. Now, if they go home and they're like, "Man, you should have seen what this fat fucking asshole did. He kicked this, he beat this little kid up, and he's just doing this and that." And the neighbor's like, "What happened? What's going on?" Okay, that's drawing people to my indie show.
Yeah.
Because they can't see that on TV. It's not always about the story, but it's a part of it. And then you got to have some moves to back it up. But as an indie show, I want to be my own product. And if you can be a little bit of that, obviously, we're all pro wrestling. It all falls in the same bucket. But people are trying to mimic so much of what's on TV. The best in the world are on TV right now. If I'm a person, do I want to go spend $100 to go see exactly what's on TV that I can spend? What does Peacock cost?
Like $20 a month.
Okay, so $20, or I take my 5 people in my family to an indie wrestling show for $100 plus food, plus a T-shirt that my kid's gonna want, and then I gotta get him one for his friend. Oh, his neighbor kid wants to go too. Shit, now I'm on the hook for 6 or 7 people at an indie wrestling show, and this is gonna be a shitty version of AEW. Is that a draw for me as a family?
No, not at all.
No. Order pizzas and go watch AEW, right? Bring your friends over to AEW. Let's watch that. You have a fucking wrestling party in the middle of the living room for $45 instead of $145.
And half the time it looks like an indie show on AEW anyway. So
now build characters that they can't get on TV. Build characters and stories that they don't see exactly on TV done right now. Now you become the draw. Now the kid wants to come see Ping. Okay. Now the kid wants to come see Jason Havoc. Be an asshole. Maybe the parent wants to see that, and the kid wants to come see Ping, right? Either way, whoever you are out there, be your own draw. Just be different. Don't draw somebody to what's already a product that's already there, because then you lose to that product. It's a better one. I can argue that all day. I don't want to go see a shitty indie wrestling show. Well, sometimes I do. Sometimes they're fun.
Sometimes they are fun, but
sometimes they're fun. But I can only take so much of that kind of fun.
Yeah,
I end up getting pissed off because the fun turns into mad.
Yeah.
If anybody who knows me knows the fun can turn into fucking pissed off at a bad indie show really quick, right? So, but at the same time, I've been in bad matches. I've been in terrible matches, and they all go wrong. That's not what I'm talking about, really. You're gonna have some fumbles and all that bullshit. But it's just about the overall feeling of it, and trying to bring some respect to the wrestling business by just doing just that, respecting it enough to to put a little hard work into it, make it a craft, bring an art form to it. Don't just come out and be normal, break free of that, break free and be something that somebody wants to pay $20 to come see. And nobody wants to come see $20 to come see a normal person. So if you're not doing something different, you ain't worth $20. That's for sure.
Gotta market yourself properly and not just
100%. 100%.
I also feel like everyone knows like kayfabe is dead, but like I also feel like there's a lot of people that take things a little too far that make people not believe in like wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my style or how I was trained was definitely far more realism, right? But I wouldn't say that you need to go out there and we need to go out there and be, knocking each other's block off. But we can certainly put some work into to show that we're being as aggressive as what we're supposed to be portraying,
Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the angle is. I'm a much more realist in terms of how I want to present wrestling than some. And that's really all I ask for from a lot of the guys. Just we're gonna extend to Fantasyland. We really are, right? But start off that core basic stuff. Just make that, your lockups, your little bit of chain that you might do, that kind of work, that kind of stuff. That's just. It's like if somebody walked onto a stage and there's nothing else going on but that one person. Right, and a spotlight floods down on them, and they say something and it's pointless. You're like, what the fuck am I watching here? You know what I mean? What am I getting into? But if that same spotlight comes on and they say something profound, now you're involved, you're engaged, you're into it, and so that's part of me making it look a little bit more legit in the beginning. I think at least. Your lockups and that kind of stuff have some pride in making that stuff look good and look strong, make it look like you're actually working towards a fight because it's what the people want to believe in, whether they tell you that or not. It's like they want to believe in wrestling.
Yeah.
They can be smart marks all they want. They still want to believe in it. Like, so most people are on a subconscious level when it comes to that. Like, you need to make them forget a little bit and get engaged. And part of that, I think, is
give them a disconnect.
Great fundamentals.
Yeah.
Then after that, once they're on the fucking train, go ahead. Now you do some crazy shit, and they're going to come along with you because you already built your credibility. It's like make them believe a little bit in the beginning, at least pretend. You know what I mean? Now they're smart marks. People are smart marks, so maybe they're not believing that the wrestling is real, but maybe they're believing that I don't really like that guy. Because that's a realistic story. Or maybe they're believing that there's two egos in the ring and one was told to lose and one's going to win and they're not happy about it. Right? Yeah. When in reality, we don't give a fuck. But that's how you work a smart mark. They don't know what the tension is, right? And they know that there really is tension because everybody wants to talk about drama. It's about the drama. So could there be drama? Yeah, just make it look a little bit more legitimate, and you're gonna break that veil of realism, right?
Yeah.
I sometimes explain it at the wrestling school like this: if you take hopefully we're not going to get canceled for being political, but if you take a Jewish person, you take a Christian, take a Catholic and a Jewish person, convince the Jewish person that the Catholic is right, and convince the Catholic that the Jewish is right. Is it going to happen?
No,
probably not. Very unlikely. So when you go out there and you have a lockup and it looks like two fucking powder puff girls fucking like patty caking in the middle of the ring doing nothing, are they ever going to believe anything you do? Probably not. No, because you just came out and you locked up like noodles, two fucking wet noodles. So if you're two wet noodles in the beginning, you're going to be two wet noodles at the end. You might do some cool moves. They might stand up and clap, but they're never going to be as engaged as they could have been. And too many people are willing to take the half-ass win than really go after the big win. Go after the actual emotion, see what the difference is. Listen to somebody who teaches you how to use psychology to build a great moment, not just a great move. It's not about the great moves, it's about the great moments that you create with those moves. So it's like just do that and see what the difference is. Because there is a big difference. There's a big difference between doing something awesome that people can be respect and clap for. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Right. To when they lose their mind because they're emotionally driven to not have a choice but to fucking burst. And that's what it should still be after, no matter how physically advanced wrestling gets, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I love the high spots. I was always a fan of Japanese wrestling when, I was kind of coming up in the business, because they kind of did do some stuff that was out of the box and a little bit advanced for what that traditional American style was.
Absolutely.
But and I like the physicality that they presented because of that whole situation with it. If you can break that through that suspend that disbelief just a little bit. Like I said, even for a smart Mark who just isn't quite sure that you guys actually like each other, and they don't know the drama, wrestle well enough and hide the truth well enough that you're going to make people question something. And then you'll really have them, I feel like, for the rest of the time. And now you can really suspend reality as far as you want to go. Now you're kicking out of all the crazy shit. And because you kept it legit in the beginning, they're gonna believe in it more at the end. It's just it really works.
So I mean, I know we talked a while about it the first time we had you on.
Yeah.
But like what do you think like the business is like really missing today? I mean, I know there's a lot, but
man,
there's a big list.
Yeah. But like, I mean, even like booking wise, like, I mean, I know like obviously booking is completely different from like, when you were coming up. So like, even like at a booking standpoint, like I don't feel like a lot of people really get it. Like, how do you even reach out?
I think I'm going to separate this into two different answers. The one answer is on the television end. And I'm going to just flat out say nothing's missing. That is where wrestling exists in the world today. They're doing it better than anybody else. Is there something wrong with it? We'll all sit there. We can all nitpick it to death. We all have little different likes or dislikes. But the bottom, they're driving wrestling to be more popular than it ever has any other time. So what's missing is absolutely nothing. It's growing. It's changing. It's evolving. It's a living, breathing art form. So I can tell you that there's things that I would prefer that they stayed, right? You know what I mean? Right. So take me back to, the Attitude Era, if you want me to exist in a time frame. But where wrestling is today is far more evolved. It's a whole different situation, different product. And I don't need to understand. I don't need to be that product. I can still be who I am and train people the way I do because I'm changing them in the fundamentals and they can grow then on their own how they want to. And I believe that if I were still had the ability to get in the ring and do what some of these younger guys can do now, I would adapt and change with it too. We all would.
You still got basic.
I still got 6 minutes on a good day. But, with what everybody's doing in the business today, these guys are evolving the business in a great way. Now, I think that people should be a little bit more focused on lengthening their careers. I think WWE is doing a good job of that, and there's going to be some figuring that out. I think AEW is trying to compete. If you want my honest opinion, I think there's people there that drive the fans to want more than they should. And because of that, they're shortening people's careers. And that's one of the problems that I might have with that end of the business is that, have a product that sustains people's careers for a little bit longer, because not everybody is going to have the same amount of success. You're going to have your mid-card TV guys who can't retire on just that. They need to go work or do whatever they need to do for the rest of their life. And, if they land on their neck 4 years into their career and are never the same again, and they can't go onto the indies and get their payoff for the work that they did and the exposure that they got, because some of the guys at the highest place, the very top, are driving the business to a place where it's almost impossible. And you're feeding the fans, in my opinion, a little more than what they need, because we're competing to that level. And, competition is great. I think like I said, I kind of like high spots. I want my match to be exciting, but there's a limit. There's a limit. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a limit to what you should do with your body. And I think people got to think about their career a little bit more, but at the same time, they're there. So, I mean, if I said to many people, had I made it in the business, I'd probably be dead. Yes. You know what I mean? I would have done whatever it took to my body or with my body when I was in that, when I was in that frame of mind. So if if you're in that competition place and you're in the spot and they're like, hey, this guy's doing this, what are you doing? You're doing more. You know what I mean? But that's kind of what happened. And then, you know, I hope that their careers last as long, or they are able to do it as long enough to make the impact that they want out of their careers. And that's what I would say to anybody on the indies. It's like, you know, don't give them everything today that they'll pay for tomorrow, because they'll pay for it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, it really is something. You know, you don't have to give them everything. I need something to make them, you know, if you're somebody I want to book for a year, I don't want them 3 matches in to be seeing everything over again. I'd like for them to see something new from you for a whole year. That would be great. And you'd be a draw, a great storyline for that whole year, and you cycle people in and out and do what you want to do, you know. But missing from the indies, you know, I'll be honest with you, it's training. It's training. I mean, this I could go on for years on the indie level, you know, and it's unfortunate because the indies used to be where people got signed from. And it tells you the state of indie wrestling, independent wrestling, when they're not getting signed from there anymore. They're going to find D1 athletes because they understand those are people who actually want to put work in. And they can teach them how to do it, right? But they don't. The problem with all these athletes is they might not be connected to pro wrestling in general. You know what I mean? Like with pro wrestling, great pro wrestlers, you have a spirit. It's just part of you. So you got some people who might be disconnected, and they have to learn that and fall in love with it. Whereas, you know, when you were on the indies and you were putting your time in, and back in, you know, before me, you know, it's like those people really lived and breathed what they were doing, and it was a different level of understanding and passion. And I think that's, you know, there's a lot of people who don't want to work that hard and think it's okay to be, you know, shitty just to have that moment, you know. And now you get attention online from people going on and being total shit. Now you get, you know what I mean? Look at all these videos of legitimate wrestlers killing it, and they get, you know, 1,200 views. And then some kid, you know, does something real stupid, untrained, unprofessional, all these other things, doing everything wrong, and they're going to get 250,000, 300,000 views because people want to laugh at you, you know. Yeah. But you got to remember that, that's 300,000 views. Maybe they'll take that to the bank, but they're also taking those laughs at you to the bank. You know what I mean? So it really is what does the business mean to you? That should say something. You know what I mean? If you're getting laughed at, but the business is important to you, if you say you love it, you love something. I love pro wrestling. I hear that falsely so often. Oh, I love pro wrestling. I love it. No, you don't love it. You love you love the fact that you get to do what you want to do, but you don't love pro wrestling. You love the idea that you get to be part of it, but you don't love pro wrestling. If you love pro wrestling, you would bring something better to it. You would put some hard work into it. You would go after, you know, figuring out how you do something better to represent the people who fucking broke their back before you. That's what people do who love. If you love this, but if you come to me and say, I love pro wrestling, I love it, and you're not a fan, and you mean that as a worker, then don't be somebody who doesn't give a shit that your punches look like crap. Don't be somebody who doesn't give a shit. I don't need to learn how to do the lockup grade. I don't need to learn how to do this grade. I do an awesome 450 splash. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Because you don't love pro wrestling. You know what I mean? If you're willing to sacrifice, don't give a shit about one thing. Now, if you're bad at something and choose not to do it, I applaud you. Right? I have plenty of people who come to me and say, you know what, my punches suck. I do something else. Okay, thank you. Thank you for thank you for making that good decision. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean they didn't work at it. It doesn't mean they didn't try to get better. They figured it out. They brought, that's, again, we'll go back to what's great about the business is we can work around all of our weaknesses. You know, that is a great thing about pro wrestling. Are you hurt? What's hurt? Your arms hurt? Your legs hurt? What's wrong? We can work around that. You know what I mean? What are your limitations? I can't do these kinds of moves, but I can do this. We can work around that, But what I can't work around is people who aren't willing, who want to be part of something and say they love it, but aren't really willing to put any work into it, are willing to get laughed at. They're willing to go to a show and be part of a show that when a new wrestling fan goes there, they go, "Oh, you mean this is the shit that you do? You don't love pro wrestling if that's who you are."
Yeah.
And that's, there's something for everybody. But one of the things that I'm considering doing with the school, and I'll even mention it on here, we'll give some feedback. I'll probably surprise Mark Mess with this idea. But what I'm thinking about doing is, because one of the things that we can't do anything about is the people who are in the business, who maybe don't have the money to train, don't have the need to train because they're enjoying their life as a backyarder, right? And backyarders have always gotten some terrible names, but at the same time, we all done something with friends, wrestling related when we were kids. With me, it was when I was kids. Coming up now, it's become a much different thing. But we're talking about, and I've been discussing with a couple people doing what I think would be crazy if you asked me a couple years ago.
This is going to be interesting.
Yeah. And it probably goes against everything that most people have heard from me, because I've been pretty against the backyarding business, so to speak. But I also feel it's something that some great wrestlers could come from, who could do something on a bigger level. But it's also something that, there's people out there hurting themselves, and people making ass of themselves. And not everybody has the ability or need to try to make a career out of something. So we're debating running a class specifically for people who are already backyarders. So they would have to prove that to me, because I'm not training somebody new to be a backyarder. But I would be willing to teach some very fundamental safety things and some basics to people who are already backyarding.
Okay.
Because in the long run, in my opinion, they're not going away, right? Backyarders aren't going away. They're a part of a culture now, almost.
Hell, they even have video games about backyard wrestling. So
not going anywhere, right? And the truth of the matter is, there's some of these kids who are doing this, they're doing better production, better videoing, better promotion than some legitimate promoters we have in this business, which gives you the idea of where the wrestling business is on the indie level. We have so many shitty promoters out there that are just booking anybody they want, anybody who aren't training. So what's the difference between a backyarder and half these promotions out there right now?
That is a fucking
so
good
one of the things I'm thinking about doing, and I would love some feedback on this, is extending my hand to people who have been doing and already doing. So that means that you got to be able to bump. You got to have some sort of sense of you're running the ropes, whether you're right or wrong. You're not, like I said, I'm not teaching anybody new to be a backyarder, period, end of story.
Right.
I don't train backyarders, but I will help somebody who is doing that learn some very fundamental stuff. I'm thinking about doing a 2-day class. It would be a weekend, and extending my hand to people who may want to look at what it is to train in reality, as opposed to what they're doing now. And I think we may bring some of those people who are fooling around with it and in backyarders and falling in love with it there, and bring it that next step and offer that.
Yeah. So how would you go about doing something like that? Like, one,
it's
the fact that like somebody is a backyarder, right. And two, like, I mean, damn, that the concept is interesting as hell. Like, I mean, like you said,
one of the things that so I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
So as far as the state of the business goes, I think backyarding is one of the reasons why the business is gotten, I want to say, sloppier, because legitimate promoters just started booking people in that were pretty much just trained in the backyard, whether it was a true backyarder or just trained by their buddy somewhere who wasn't trained properly. It's just, so now you take that and you give these people, you give people the idea that there's a separation, and there is, because they're not professionals, right? We've always separated that. But now that line is blurred to such a degree on the indie level. I can't go to I want to say, let me be positive here and say 50%. 50% of an indie show you go to, there's a good chance that the level of people on that show, at least some of them, are no better than any backyarder, if not worse.
You are being real generous with 50%.
I told you I was going to be positive.
You're real generous.
Going to be positive.
Like shit. Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
So what's the difference now? You now I can go online. I can watch. I was speaking about this with somebody else. You can go online. You know what they got. Sometimes they're very inventive, right? Because they are in love with the business, right?
Some of these backyard places have like better. I don't want to say equipment, but like hardware when it comes to like some of these titles look amazing for some of these backyard places. Yeah. And you go to some promotions where the title is just like, okay.
Yeah. Right. Well, to them, it's. I think it's about creating a little more realism on that end. So they'll spend the money on the great. They'll spend the $3,000 on the fucking awesome title, but they won't go spend $1,800 to train to be a fucking pro wrestler.
Right.
But, okay. You know what I mean? We can laugh about. I'll laugh about that with them, and I'll make those jokes too when they come to my fucking school. But the truth of the matter is, I'm not seeing much of a difference anymore. I'm a difference. So one of the things that I struggle with is I don't want Mark's school, and I don't want my school to be associated with being a backyard school. But at the same time, what does keeping people who might learn something about the business, what does that do for us? You know what I mean? As a school, I have to be able to, in a way, make sure people can protect themselves. So that's one of the things that we teach. So in essence, that class would be about, some of the ways that you protect yourself and fall and some of the fundamentals of that to keep some kids from dropping on their head and breaking their neck. At the same time, you might have some people who really are good at this, great at wrestling, and exposing them to the reality of training. They might decide to move over and be a great wrestler, and you don't know. The backyarder today might be, the WWE superstar tomorrow. You just don't. So I know it's radical, and it's not a decision that I've actually made officially yet. I'm just, you know what? I probably shouldn't even put it out there for the whole.
Oh no, I'm glad you did, because that's interesting as shit. Like,
but I just, I'd love to get some feedback on them, because really, how is it protecting the business at this point? It's almost turning a blind eye to something at this point.
Right.
Oh, we got this mess over here. We got people, doing this, and then we're saying, be a professional, right? One of the things that I preach is, be a professional. If you want to be part of this business, be a professional, right? And then I go to a ring rental, and the show might not be that professional, and most of the shows that Mark does ring rental for are on the up and up, but we've all been there. We've all seen, you travel around this country wrestling, you run into less and less professional as you go. So now I'm saying to this kid who's being a backyarder and saying, be a professional, have some respect. But down the block, somebody who is saying they're a trained pro wrestler is doing that same thing that they're doing. And somehow I can't say, give those other people a problem. I want to give everybody a problem who doesn't bring respect to the wrestling business. I really do. You don't have to be the greatest pro wrestler to bring respect to the wrestling business. You can have all the limitations you want, just understand what they are and understand how to use them and manipulate the crowd with them. I'm not saying that you have to be Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels. I'm not saying you have to be anybody who existed on that level, but you have to understand what you are and are not good at, and you have to be willing to accept that and turn that into something that's respectable. If you're not willing to do that, then we go to a professional show that books in terrible people who are untrained, who really don't care, who just work out with each other and pat each other on the ass and say, great job, good job.
Yeah.
Don't learn psychology. What's the difference between that and backyard?
Yeah. I also feel that, like, if you would do this, I would feel like it could possibly
lead to something much bigger too.
Open the door more for them to actually become a trainee.
Well, that's look, ultimately
right?
it's all about building the business, right? And there is some great characters out there, and there's some great people out there who right now are wrestling in somebody's backyard, and they're putting their time and energy into something that they don't, that could be more real than that if they really want it to be. Maybe they don't. And I'm saying, you know what? I'm okay with that if they don't, because there's a whole lot of people that come into the wrestling business and they figure out in a couple months that it's not for them. Or they leave and I'm going to go to a school that's easier. That happens a lot. You know, we're a tough school. I'm a tough school. You know, where you guys trained was a tough school. Rob's a tough school. And when I say tough, I just mean we do the fundamentals and we make you look good in a fundamental way before we get to all the fun shit. You know, and that's where you lose a lot of people in that first 6 months when you're doing footwork and you're doing all that stuff. You lose a lot of people in that because they think it's all going to be springboards and you know, moonsaults and fun shit. Mm-hmm. But you got to get through that fundamental work to get to the fun stuff. And then when that once you get to that level and it opens up, I mean, what is there that you can't do? You know, but ultimately with the whole backyard thing, it would be to open the door as a caveat to come into the business and get a taste for what training would be. At the same time, the training for this backyard course would be kind of a crash course. It's not going to be as detailed, but it'll be a flavor of what you would get. And it would be some safety factors, and we would, have to really, it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to work out, but like I said, I kind of wanted the wrestling community's feedback on it. I'm interested in it. I'm not really afraid of controversy. Never have been. I probably
no, not you.
Rob Noxious and Mark Messer probably don't know what to fucking do with themselves. I just said the words, I'll help some backyarders. But
it got cold in here. I'll tell you that.
What's that?
It got cold in here. I'll tell you that.
You know, but ultimately we got to all keep adapting to what the business is today. That's never going to change. If you decide not to adapt, that's when you lose. You know what I mean? It's just we've got to come along with the business. And the business today, there's a lot of great people that there could be a lot of potential talent in a backyarder, but they have to be willing to put the work in, and not everybody is. I've learned that. I've had people come through that wanted to be wrestlers, and they were backyarders, and they did not understand what work was, and they're not going to. The level of work to be a professional, and that's okay. They, you know, nothing I can do about that, and that's not what they want their life to be about. So I got no control over that, but I can teach you how not to break your neck. You know what I mean? I can teach you some very fundamental basics of how to find your back instead of laying on your head. So some simple safety measures. I can teach you how to run the ropes so you're not already fucked up when you're coming off the ropes, so you're going to perform your move a little bit better. I can make sure you're bumping properly so you save your back. You know what I mean? And I'm sure your parents will love it. So, you know, obviously you got to be 18 and over if we do this. Obviously, I'm not training anybody from scratch to be a backyarder. I'm not going to bring somebody into this business to be a backyarder, but I will help people if they are backyarders. So there's going to be a vetting process for anybody who takes the course. If we do it, you know, I would have to really see that it's feasible and that, you know, everybody's on board and figure out what the program would be. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I got to plug this in.
Okay. Dun, dun, dun. We all just listening. Yes, he did say he was going to help some backyard people. So don't freak out. I know what you're thinking. Don't freak out. Don't jump out the window. It's not the apocalypse. Okay, so just blew my mind. I think I pooped a little bit. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I did. As soon as he said it, I felt my intestines release. Absolutely not.
There we go. All
Yeah.
right. So now we'll wrap that up, and
Oh, shit.
Oh, man. So, have you gone to any shows lately that you've seen to where you just kind of walk in and be like, no, and walk out? I know one of the things that I enjoyed when I was training was if I got an offer to go somewhere, the first thing I would hear is be like, you going where? No, they got to talk to me first. They got to talk to me first because I don't want you doing nothing stupid. And I think that, to me, was like the biggest thing that helped me out because, like you said, you want to kind of go anywhere and everywhere you can the moment you can. But you can't, like the saying goes, you can't eat everybody's cooking.
So as open as I am after you hit that spot, when I believe somebody gets to that point where they get it as a trainee and they kind of understand what the right and wrong is, now I feel free to say, okay, hit the road. You know what to look for now. You know what is and isn't kind of, you can take with a grain of salt and what you can believe. And that's one of the things that I try to teach you in that foundation in that first 18 months. So I'm restrictive in that first 18 months. I really am. You are going to learn the basis from our group of people that we expose you to. But after that, I encourage, you're going to learn, you're going to understand that base. And when you are there and you have a true understanding of it, you can go elsewhere now and you can take pieces of one person's advice and pieces of another person's advice and then adapt to be your own animal, But when you're starting out, you need to have a true perspective to start from, I guess, in my opinion.
Yeah, be able to see the whole picture.
Yeah, you've got to have a again, it comes down to just a foundation. If you have a foundation, you got good roots. Now you can take that and grow that idea to whatever you decide you're going to take it with. But you have those roots. And once you have the roots, I think anywhere and everywhere you can go. But I think that people need to be a little bit more grounded in the beginning part. That first year, stick with your school, put your work in with your school. With workers, you sign 18 months that we really work with you heavily. And that we give you, everything kind of runs through us, myself, Mark, and Troy, and a couple of the other people who are guiding, lights there. Jim Brennigan, Jimbo. Everything kind of runs through us because we want, just like you were saying, it's like I don't want you to be told something and not know the difference of what's right and wrong. I want you to truly be confident in the core parts of what you should listen to and what you shouldn't. Once you know that, you'll understand it because you'll have your own kind of mojo with the business at that point. You'll have your own groove that you've worked out for yourself and understand, and then you're going to grow infinitely. I really do believe that. If you have your good foundation, you can hit the road. You can go wherever you want to go. You're going to learn something from everybody, and you take little pieces of that, and then you turn yourself into the worker that you want to be or that you become. I think that's one of the things that's probably missing from the indie scene is that people are not really traveling as much. And I know it doesn't pay to travel, and everybody says, they want money to travel. But at the same time, I was always willing to travel somewhere one time before they had to pay. And sometimes it was just for the experience. So maybe you got to take a drive. And you don't got to go there twice. If you feel like you gave them their value, then they got to pay you. But you can't be unrealistic. If you're not a name, why would I pay? If I'm in Pennsylvania here, and you're not somebody who's really, and on my terms, going to bring that value to the locker room, bring that value to my other trainees, teach them something. If you're not a name or you're not going to draw the crowd, then you have to be doing something else for the people around you. I would bring in somebody like a Toby Farley or somebody like that whether or not people knew them or not, because they're going to grow my locker room. They're going to basically teach the people around there what you can do, who you can be, some of the things that you can achieve. That's a value, right? Whether they're going to, if I go to a new town that never heard of him or not, he's going to bring value to my company. And he's going to have a great match. Someone like that, now you can pay them more money. But if you're not a guy like that, if you're young in this business, if you're starting out and you want to go to Tennessee to maybe expose yourself to something down in Tennessee, or you want to go to Ohio to expose yourself something down to Ohio, you may have to go and spend that money. Because as a promoter, if I was in Pennsylvania drawing somebody the opposite way, if somebody was in Ohio, they don't know who you are. You're not a name. You're not a draw. And I don't know exactly what you can do yet. So why would I pay somebody, it's going to cost you $100, whatever it costs. I mean, I don't know what if it costs you $100, $120, I can get a guy locally for $50 that will probably sell 2 tickets, pay for himself, and people already know the name. People know who he is, whether he's, a star or not, doesn't matter. People know that person. Familiar with the crowd. So you can't get upset that a promoter doesn't want to bring you in and pay you $100, pay you your cost, right? Even you're like, well, I'm coming in for cost. It's all it costs. Why would I bring you in though? I have to be a smart promoter. I'm not going to bring you in. Now, if I bring you in and you work that time and you take the same 40 or 50 that I was going to pay my local guy, because you took the opportunity and I took the chance of booking you in from another state. Now, the next time, if you say to me, look, I feel like I give you your value, it cost me $120 to go here. Now I have a decision to make. Do I want to bring you in and add that value to my show? Or do I want to, to say, no, I can't afford it. So that's the decision that you leave the promoter with, but at least give them that opportunity to make that decision. The first time you go somewhere, if you're not a name and they don't know who you are, you may have to go and lose some money. Just part of it. I didn't say you had to work for free. I don't necessarily believe in always working for free. The right opportunity is one thing. Just a regular show, doing something that somebody will pay you for elsewhere? No, probably not. But at the same time, I as a promoter, I don't need to pay somebody $120 that isn't going to draw any more than my $50 guy. So you have to understand that balance that people are in. So if you want to travel and you want to make a name for yourself, you're going to have to lose some money in here sometimes. You got to figure out where the line is, where the value of the trip and the payoff at the end might be. What opportunity you're exposing yourself to. I always would say today you got to look for shows that have people that have a little bit of following or that may be getting looked at. Look at the dirt sheets and see who's getting looked at. If they're on a show, those are the promotions you want to try to work for. Don't work for free for the guy down the street who's just drawn the local guys and using it. Get your money worth. But if you got a chance to be on a show where somebody's getting looked at, or there's some high profile people on that somebody important might be at that show, then then you got to make your decision. What's the possible payoff? If you feel you're ready to be exposed, then get yourself exposed. That's the payoff. That's your payday, and it's just like I said, there's got to be some value. I don't think that your regular local show that's not drawing any names, not drawing anybody in, and drawing the same 100 people that you should be working for free over and over for them for. There has to be some other value that you're getting from it then, which is you're building your local home product, your school's product. You're keeping that going. You're giving back in that way. That's different. That's your decision to make. But if you're just traveling around, but you want $100 to go to Tennessee, but you're going to work down the street because it's closed for free, then you're losing out. You're losing out anyway. Go to Tennessee. Try that out.
Bloop. Oh, man. Time flies every time we talk to you. It's just insane.
Yeah, man. I can't believe it's an hour already.
Jesus. It's like sitting at the learning tree going, yes.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you. I know I preached a lot. I talked more than I let you guys talk.
I know you're fine.
But,
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
I talk a lot at training too. Gives you guys some breaks between your spots.
Like, oh yeah, no, tell me that story again. Back. Oh my bad.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? So you asked me what I thought was missing. What do you think the most important thing that's happening on the indie scene in wrestling is right now?
Important happening in the indie scenes. I mean, for me at least, I mean, I'm enjoying more of traveling and like seeing how other people, or not people, but like different states, like how they work compared to like how we work.
Yeah.
You know, it's really different, and you know, I'm always loving seeing like how, you know, different people work. But I mean, traveling right now is like, I mean, at least for me, like I have a lot of fun traveling. You know, I was just at Strong Style Lucha out in Ohio last month. Going there next month. You know, and just meet new people and, you know, seeing how other people work.
Travel is one of the best parts of the business. I mean, I think there's some people who get tired of the travel. I just never get tired of the travel, and I never did get travel. I wanted to travel everywhere and anywhere, but the different places you go that just they operate at different speeds. They operate, you know. When I was traveling around, we got to Texas and we were wrestling for TWF out there, and it was Rudy Boy Gonzalez. And he, after the match, he's like, "It was a good match, but you guys just kept picking each other up." And we were like, "Oh, we thought we slowed it down. Like we really thought we slowed down compared to our typical like East Coast, you know, fast-paced wrestling." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know, but we're at home sometimes. It's like if you don't pick them up, they kind of, you know, they want to be moved along, the ECW style of you know, ECW patience level."
Yeah.
And you know, they were like, why would you pick them up if the point is to pin them? And I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If the point of the match is to pin somebody, then why would you pick them up every time? So it changed it, you know, and I was you know, more I would say a veteran, not a veteran. I was just experienced at that level. But because I had been wrestling at a higher pace, and then also trying to make it to that next level. So when you're trying to make it to the next level, sometimes you're like, "Oh, fuck it, I just got to do more and more and more." And that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. So, but it's like that lesson of like, no, actually, like, slow it the fuck down, kid.
Yeah.
I wasn't a kid at that point, but traveling is like huge to get yourself better, to meet all the people you're going to meet traveling. There's no better teacher than that.
Yeah.
It's huge, traveling. What about you? What would you say the most important thing in indie wrestling happening right now?
From what I've been seeing, I think I'm enjoying the fact that guys are putting a lot more investment into themselves. When you see the way like a lot of these guys are actually coming in with gear, coming in, you know, with something that's semi-presentable. You don't see as much as the cut-off T-shirts and the basketball shorts and stuff, and coming out with a pair of sneakers. Like, guys are actually, you know, putting some effort into how they look. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that confuses the business is the TV end of, you know, TV legitimizes you automatically. If you're on TV, you can go out there wearing sneakers, wearing your cutoff jeans, wearing your you know, your basic the same shorts you can get at Adidas and you know, Dick's Sporting Goods. It doesn't matter because TV legitimizes you automatically. nobody's questioned their professional level because they're automatically professional. They're doing it on a national stage on TV, right? But how as an indie guy do you stand out? How do you separate yourself? Again, right? Nobody's paying to see a regular guy. If I'm going to an indie show and I'm forking over my hard-earned money as a family, they're not doing that to see the guy, just a normal guy. You know what I mean? They're not doing that to see their neighbor. So I always say to people, think about it. Like, if you're wearing something that you can get off the rack at that easily, I know you can go online and order wrestling stuff now. I get it, right? It's easier. But it's not as easy as going to Dick's Sporting Goods. So if you're wearing one of these shorts, I feel like that look like, the MMA shorts that you can get anywhere. I get it. It's different. It's look. But at the same time, it doesn't separate you from the guy that's sitting right there in the crowd. Your kick pads and your wrestling shoes. Hey, wear your kick pads, but put a pair of boots underneath them. They can even be softer boots, whatever. So they're easier or lighter. But a pair of boots is a lot harder to get than a pair of wrestling shoes that you can get at any sporting goods store. And I feel like you want to be as much of an attraction as possible to draw people in, or to make people believe in who you are and what all the work that you're putting in. I would say that's something I did wrong in my career. I did not put enough into my my gimmick, my look, my clothes. I decided that because I was working so hard at the wrestling school and putting so much work into being a great technician, that I would override some of those things. So I didn't, I spent my money going to, from one wrestling school to another, and I spent my money, traveling from state to state, instead of just saving up that $300, $400 and getting a great fucking outfit. I saved up the $70 and I got away with what I could. Because I was spending the money. It wasn't like I wasn't spending the money on the business, but it just wasn't on my gimmick. And that was wrong. You know what I mean? Really, I should have spent the money on the gimmick and cut out a couple of the shows, because the shows really ended up not meaning nothing. But I think if I would go back and see more videos of me wearing better stuff, I'd be happier right now, today, than when I go back and watch some stuff. So it's one of the things I think I did wrong is, not putting enough into the actual aesthetic of the business. It's huge. It's a huge factor to everything. And we'll end. I know you guys are way over, but I think one of the things that I think in the indies that's really important is I feel like the pendulum is swinging back to the middle. And I think that's a huge, huge benefit. What's going to happen here and bring the quality of wrestling on the indies up is because people did get tired of just the pointless, goofy spots and that kind of stuff. And that, making it look a little bit better, I think, is coming back in style. And I'm happy about that. And I think it's something that we're right on time with at Workers University. And I do want to say that I should have mentioned it earlier, but you can go to workersu.com if you want to look and see more about our school. And by the way, if you are somewhere that you don't know where a good wrestling school is, you can reach out to us and we'll help you find a good wrestling school in your area, no matter what state you're in. We'll reach out to our resources to find what the credible school around you is if we can. If we can help you, we will, because we are about building the business overall and for everybody. So I just want to say that out there as well. If you are looking for a good school that you want a credible experience at, we know what they ask, so we'll even call around for you and find you somewhere that's credible if you're not near us, because if you're near us, the only answer you're gonna get is us.
Yeah.
Right. But man, I appreciate you guys having me on today to promote the school, to promote the business in general.
No problem.
Hopefully I didn't bore you all to death.
No.
And,
no. Not at all.
Well, I will see you Wednesday.
Yes. Yeah. So let's just say that. Yeah. For anybody who is interested in coming Wednesday, Ping is coming to be a guest trainer at Workers U at the Mess Dungeon, and you can get information on that by hitting us up or hitting up Ping. And yeah, we're looking forward to having you down. All the guys are excited about it. I posted it in the group today. So and that's anybody else who's interested in being a guest trainer, reach out to me there. You can reach out to me through the website. We do try to bring in some, alternate perspectives, and I try to shut the fuck up and stand in the corner and not interrupt. It's hard. It's hard to do, you know what I mean? But I try. All right. So.
All right. Yeah. Well, until next week, everyone.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for being on, Jason. You're welcome anytime.
All right.
So, all right, Adrian.
All right, buddy. Till next week.
Yes, sir.